Uh,
Yeah.
right. Okay. Right. Where were we? Okay. So we talked about the
We
the
was
the
yeah,
podiums.
looking at podiums. Yeah, yeah, we could look at meta percentage now if you wanted.
Yes, we do. So now we're going to go look at the meta percentage. I'd
The
also like
meta.
to blame
We
Carol Baskin for our internet. That 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 bitch.
that bitch Carol Baskin.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's all her fault. I think this whole virus and the Krakatoa explode everything. It's just her fault, right?
Yeah, absolutely, and Krakatoa. Right, so meta percentage, my favourite stat. I think it's one of the most
Yeah.
important stats that you can see in the game, and that's because obviously it lets you know what armies you're going to be facing against. Now, obviously, this is last year. Oh, Twitch video, thanks for subscribing. But this year, obviously, it's all fucked because this is the end of it. So we get to really say
Yeah.
what happened in the last 3 months of this edition, and it honestly is quite interesting. Bone Reapers were far and away the most popular army in the game with 8.4% of the meta. But then Ogre More Tribes were up there as well, 7.45. But one of the ones
Hmm.
I wasn't expecting was Cities of Sigmar, nearly 7%, so
Yeah.
6.8. But clearly, I would say that's because there's just so many people that had toys that they could build armies like that in, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of it's the modeler's dream, right? You, you can either just use your old Empire guys or go as far as I've seen Tomb King Tristan building his cities of Sigmar, for instance, out of Necromunda gangs, so he can just go wild, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so OCR Bone Reapers, like their uptake is a brand new army. So the fact that there were so many people playing them is wild, absolutely
Hmm.
wild. Yeah, Ogre More Tribes, that makes sense. They were already there. Whole people had a bunch of models and Cities of Sigmar. But you know, we've seen Stormcast Eternals, which we still see in there at 5%, just under Blades of Corn, drop from the kind of starter army. But you feel like that OCR Bone Reapers army is now that starter army for people that you can give them. You could just be like, just buy a bunch of these more tech. You could buy yourself a big Nagash, or you can do this thing. It's such an easy sell to pick that army up. And people already had Nagash as well, so sometimes they only had to add more tech guard to
Yeah,
make it that popular.
yeah. It's basically buy 40 to 60 more tech guard and win 3+ games, right? That's how it works.
Uh, yeah, yeah.
I'm being a little bit facetious, but yeah, that's it was similar to last season, right? It was like, okay, buy three, start collecting flesh eaters and win 3 games, or buy three keepers and win 3 games. Uh, we do get these armies that kind of I think they're meta. No, matters. We need a better word than meta, but I think their representation at events does get propped up by how powerful they are
Bone
to a
Reapers.
degree.
I don't think. I don't. I think that's.
Oh, sorry, how easy they are to. Let's not say powerful. Let's say how easy, how how high their floor is. I think every army has, like I've talked before about, a floor and a ceiling, in that you could have an army with a very low floor, which is difficult to play, but a very high ceiling, which means that if you're a really good player, that you'll do very well with them. But there's always these armies with no matter how technical you are as a player, they'll have mechanics in there that make it a little easier. I think OBR are one of those. You've got unkillable, unbreakable troops that you can just park on objectives.
Uh,
That's my opinion.
well, for their win rate, yes. But as to why they were
Yeah.
picked up, I think a load of people want to play the Death Subfaction. I really. Oh,
Oh,
not
right. Yeah.
Subfaction, Grand
Yeah.
Alliance.
Two different conversations. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But we'll talk about the win percentage later. Ogre More Tribes, we
Yeah.
definitely have seen those heavily represented, and I would argue that's obviously because you could just pick up a start collecting box, you can put a bunch of stone horns down. I'd love to know what your guys' thoughts are, by the way, on these percentages. I'll read them out in the chat. Cities of Sigmar, super popular. One of the guys in the chat was talking about those a moment ago. So let's just talk about who was it? I think it was. I don't know where it was. I tell you what, the internet being this shit has really thrown me today. I'm just like, I feel a bit pissed. I'm just like, fuck. So I'm sorry, everyone
Oh.
listening. Yeah, and especially to LLV who's got up at 5 in the morning to do this. It's just, anyway. The Hobby Hobo says, straight up, the stat show gets me through an 8-hour drive to Auckland to see my son. Looking forward to the meta coming back so I can get angry at Sean Tubman for fucking the meta.
Well, yeah, as we said earlier in the show, hopefully, if internet prevailing and everything else we're doing in the background prevailing, hopefully next weekend and on, we should have some deep dives into players so we can look at exactly how much Sean Tubman has been fucking up the meta.
I can't wait to see that. I can't wait to see it. The yeah. So Catred says, "I bet if you give me the most broken meta list, I can still lose every game." Challenge accepted.
Yeah, I've been calling that flattening the curve because there are some standout. There's not many of them, but there are some standout results that bring some of these armies down as far as win percentage. But yeah, keeping on with the meta here.
Hold on. I just want to
I,
say that Jack
yeah,
Baker in the chat is saying, "I'm building my Cities of Sigma army, dwarf models. It's such a great hobby army." That's the other thing as well.
nice.
I think the Cities
Yeah,
of Sigma is up there because it's a great hobby army. Zinch people
yeah,
already had them. The models are great. Yeah, and they've got some janky fucking rules. And also, if you've ever gone through the horror that is painting all of those horrors that you need for a Zinch army, you're going to want to put them on the tabletop at every opportunity. You're just going to want to be like, I
right.
don't know if you know what it's like painting 80 blue horrors, but it sucks, and I'm doing it right now.
Yeah, I hear shake and bake's a good method though. I saw that on one of your 40k episodes, right? Just shake and bake it, done.
Yeah. Owen Jackson says, ogres seem to have such a loyal following, players seem hyped to get them on the table at tournaments. I think that's true. I think it's really unfortunate the Gutbuster element wasn't as good as the Beastclaw element, but yeah, I think that's... And also, contrast, Rob. I'm not sure what that's meant to be. But Deviant Doc says,
Contrast.
where's the Skaven at? So Skaven, meta percentage-wise, are 4.7% of the meta. Now, that's really
Yeah.
interesting because about October time last year, they were at 7 or 8% of the meta. They were in the top 5 most popular armies being taken in Age of Sigmar at that point.
Close, just over 9. They actually overtook Stormcast for a brief period right before the FAQ dropped. So they were the most played army. Like it was strange. Everyone just picked up Skaven the last month of the year.
Yeah, it was crazy. Really, really popular. I think that's because obviously they had an initial bit where they were really strong. A lot of people played with their toys, took them to events, and then maybe even moved on. Because truthfully, now some of the more obnoxious elements of Skaven have been taken out. It's a pretty finesse army that you can do
Yeah,
fairly well with. It's got some really strong tools though, so it's genuinely good. And the Rise in Nagash has paid to some Skaven stuff because a lot of the Skaven stuff, not all, but some of the Skaven stuff. Relied on magic happening, and with Nagashes in the world, it was harder to get some of those spells off. So I think that's why we saw a drop in Skaven armies. Truth be told, but yeah, that's where they're at. Blades of Corn, 5.5%, always popular motherfuckers.
yeah,
Hedonites have dropped down. Remember when they were at 8% LLV, but now
yeah,
down to 3.8%.
yeah. I think there, if you take out again the discounting the, my opinion, stupid White Dwarf army, which is basically old Slanesh. I think they're a finesse army now as well. You can't just rely on getting your stuff back every turn and rolling that 2+ to stop your people. You actually have to play the army now. I quite like it.
Yeah. So we'll just rifle down. But you obviously can go on the stats yourself and have a look. But Git's down at 3.69%, Sylvaneth at
Yeah,
3.5%. But what's interesting is looking at Sylvaneth and then going, they're more popular than Legions and Nagash because last season, they were actually battling for first place,
yeah,
top of the table.
yeah. When we started the stats, Legions and Nagash were always at the top along with Stormcast. So I think you made that point that people just want to play grand, like their death armies. So a lot of those Bone Reaper players might actually just be Legions and Nagash players that liked playing Nagash and replace their skeleton hordes with hordes of Mortek Guard instead, which is a upgrade basically, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And then you've got, I think the fact that Hedonite's drop maybe puts a little bit of wind in your sails on the argument that some armies are taking because of their competitive bent. But I think they're also played a lot and people probably wanted to move on, if I'm honest. Maggotkin and Nurgle down at 2.82%. They definitely are looking for a new battle tome at some point to increase their
Mm-hmm.
popularity. Although I think we would have seen more Maggotkin on the table if the Legion of Chaos Ascendant had been allowed to run through the season. But obviously, we haven't. Daughters of Cain down at 2%. Still never been crazy popular, but always been
Yeah,
really competitive.
always
Nighthorn
been
even
good.
less. And then Legion of Grief down there again as well. But Beast of Chaos, one of the like it's a battle tome all of its own, and it's only got 1.5% of the meta, which is just messed up, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, we'll get onto it in our future planned shows here, but it's crazy low win percentage as well, and that's even with Joel McGrath going bonkers with that army. I can't comprehend how he's back to back 4-1 with it. But from all the other results, because you take him out of the results, and they're probably they're just over 30% win ratio. So they're not in a good spot right now. It seems.
No, not at all. Okay, so that's the meta percentage. And now we're going to go on to the match win percentage breakdown.
Yeah,
So we get to declare a winner, or at least for those 3 month periods. That 3 month period, 65% match win percentage on the Disciples of Zinch. Pretty
yeah.
impressive.
Yeah, and we saw it come down slowly. I mean, they came in at close to 80% at the beginning of the season, so when everyone
Do you mean
went
the beginning?
bonkers.
Do you mean in January?
Sorry, when their book was released. Yeah. So I think the first couple of weeks of January they were the old book, and then their new book was released. It would have been right around the time of CanCon, right?
Yep.
Would have been when their new book was released, and obviously we saw them do very well at CanCon, and we saw them also do very well at the GW Heat that weekend as well. So they, I think the FAQ helped flatten their numbers a little bit, but I still think we're incredibly good. So that's why we keep seeing them still win. And if you look at outside of match percentage, I will save it for the next table in detail. But just quickly, if you look at the columns next to match win percent, and with 15 5+ wins over 31 events, that's some pretty good numbers there. That's every second event they have gone undefeated, if you want to think of it that way.
Yeah, I do. The other one, I think the kind of silent killer, is the Fire Slayers.
Yeah,
Right?
the dwarves with no
Dwarves.
shoes
Yeah, with no shoes, no toenails.
or pants, or
Yeah,
yeah,
4.3% of the meta. Match win percentage, 61%. And that slowly ticked up over time, which I think
yes,
it was a nightmare situation for people as they slowly started to understand how powerful it could be, and also a fairly popular army, 4.3% of the meta. One of the nice things about the meta over the past 2 years, well, year and a half, me and LLV doing these stats, is it actually has spread out more. There used to be a lot of
yes,
12, 15% armies, Stormcast, Death at certain points. But we've now started to see like there's a more even spread of armies played, which is really nice, I think. And also, there used to be a much bigger top end and a much bigger bottom end, and it's kind of truncated a little bit now. I mean, still, Disciples Inc. 65% is a little bit too good, but I do think Demons would have put pay to them. If you're talking about competitive play, not Demons, sorry, Seraphon would have smashed them. I
yes,
think the four
yeah. We haven't seen what Seraphon would have done to. Um, I mean, on paper, Seraphon kind of look like the answer to Zinch, right? I don't know if you've got any thoughts about. I know you played both armies, so it'll be interesting to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think Demons would have not Demons, Seraphon, sorry, would have wrecked him. The Zinchian stuff to some degree, depending on like mission type and build specifically. But I think one of the things that you'll see a lot when we get back into gaming, you'll see 4 Bastillodons, and that damage 3 against demons would have just put pay to a lot of the Tzeentch stuff. So I think that would have affected the game a lot, but we haven't seen that. So in this period, 65%, that seems to make loads of sense. Fire Slayers, though, truth be told, are an incredibly unfun matchup for players. They do what they do well, and they do it so well that it's almost almost can't engage with them. And seeing how popular they are and seeing that win percentage, you have to think about it as an army to play against. It's a little bit daunting when you take into account the Cities of Sigmar list from Halahart. And then Tzeentch, you think, okay, well, I need to outrange Tzeentch if I can. I need to outfight Fireslayers if I can. And then I need to be able to not get shot off the board on the first turn by Halahart. So there's an interesting dynamic to the list. But what's nice about the meta percentage and why I referred to it is because that you're not guaranteed to pair into one of those. At a certain point, you're almost guaranteed to pair into, in the later rounds, a Nagash or a Legion to Nagash army with a bunch of Grimghast Reapers. You're less likely to do that now, but truthfully, you're likely in rounds 4 or 5 at a tournament to pair into Fireslayers or Tzeentch. So there you go. That's what I think at the minute. You got any thoughts?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The bigger of a representation of an army, obviously, the more chance you're gonna have of facing it over the rounds. When you take an army, and we've dived into this in previous shows as well, but if you take an army with a high match win percentage and then take that over 5 rounds, like we'd calculated a little while ago that with Bone Reapers, some of these events we were looking at, Bone Reapers were like 10 and 12% of those particular events, and it becomes an almost guarantee that if they follow their match win percentage ratios, that you're going to hit them by round 3 or 4 at that point. And the same was true of Legions of Nagash. Whereas you've got some of these outliers with 2, 3, 4, 5%, you're looking at kind of dodging them until possibly the final round sometimes.
So just looking at some other match win percentages going down. OCR Bone Reapers 59%. Can't argue with that. That's decent. They're doing really well.
Yeah.
And then Daughters of Cain 58%. They have been above 55% for like 2 years. Since their battle tome was released, they haven't slowed down. Oh, they have slowed down because they were once riding high, but still really strong. Big War 56%. Great army. Slanesh down finally. Down by 20% in this
Yeah.
season. At one point, riding up at 75%, and now finally down to 55%. But still, the sixth or seventh most successful army in the game, right?
Yeah, yeah, they're still a great army. I just think they actually take some. They're a little less. Just push it forward now, right? You're going to lose some of those big things now, and you can't bring them back guaranteed. I think that was credit where credit's due. That was a great FAQ change in my opinion.
Yeah, I just want to shout out Devin Dock in the chat. He says if I'm going to tournaments, I would paint Slayers as leather daddies with rainbow mohawks, carrying banners, reading "Spank Me."
Didn't someone already do that? Danny Plays, the playmaster himself.
Maybe I think
he did. He did. In his Caradron army, he had a unit or two of Fire Slayers, and they were gimped out.
To be honest, though, you 100% just flat out need, and this is a need, in my opinion. You need to find some way to make playing your Fire Slayer army fun for your opponent because it fucking sucks.
That's great.
Colonel Cabbage, afternoon
yeah.
all, just arrived. How are Beast of Chaos doing? Still maintaining our coveted spot. They're doing pretty bad. We'll talk about that in a minute. So Slaves to Darkness up 52%. The big winners this year.
They are they're the Cinderella. They're the belle of the ball, as Prism Mike would say. But yeah, they're that's the difference a Battle Tome can make. I think, right? They were actually a joke army, and now I think they're really good. I think they could even be better than the 55% shows, 52% shows. But yeah, great army.
Agreed. So I'm just going to go through the list now. Cities of Sigmar, 50% win rate, so in the nice place. Idoneth, 51%. Flesh Eater Courts, 51% as well. Iron Jaws, 45%. Skaven, 44%. Nighthaunt, 44%. So now going on to the new Battle Tome release, Seraphon, 43%. I think we would have seen that tick up if we'd have let it.
Yeah, these numbers don't have any. Seraphon came out, I think, the weekend of March 14th, which was our last recorded event. So we haven't actually seen any new Seraphon battle tomes in these numbers, unfortunately. They waited so long for a battle tome and hasn't even. It's like something conspired against them. They don't even get to use it in tournaments yet, right?
Yeah, yeah. Everyone just sat there with a bazooka, like ready to
Yeah,
fire. Yeah, like it's absolute. In the movie scene where they're like, lock and load, let's go, motherfuckers, start
yeah,
music. Yeah, there's the epic like aggro music, and then walk to a cafe and sit their ass down and do nothing. Yeah,
yeah. That's it. Yeah,
yeah. Saves the darkness, high five in Sylvaneth as they travel in different directions on the table.
yeah. Basically, yeah.
Just like this. It's Hobby Hobo says, want to know why KO's win percentage is so fucked? Sean fucking Tubman. That's why. Yeah, absolutely. Where is that list? So Gloomspite gets 42%. They actually have been doing pretty bad. Sylvaneth 41%. Stormcast Eternals, time to open a new chamber.
Yeah,
40,
God, yeah. That's bad.
40%. The only
Yeah.
army that's worse than them that isn't some sort of weird army is the Beasts of Chaos. So bottom
Beasts
three,
of Chaos, yeah.
Stormcast Eternals, Beasts of Chaos, and Sylvaneth. Sylvaneth is the top of the bottom three. Well done. Stormcast Eternals, 40%. Beasts of Chaos, 40%. Hilarious.
Yeah. So Beasts of Chaos are serving a very good purpose in that they're propping up the rest of his table. That's about it right now, right?
Yeah, the Beasts of Chaos are just holding everyone else on their shoulders, right? Just giving out wins left, right, and
Yeah, there
centre.
you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really don't. Okay. All right. Next up, so that's the match win percentage, and then the
Yeah,
final table.
so this is everything into one, but now we've sorted by 5+ wins, which is, I think, a little more indicative of power level, in my opinion. Because match win percentage also, it's going to also include narrative players or whatever, people who aren't necessarily at an event to go and win it. Whereas 5+ wins means that faction can go undefeated at an event. So you'll notice there's a lot of similarities at the top. Obviously, Zinch. OCR can actually jump Fire Slayers, though. And one thing that always stands out to me, if we look at Cities of Sigmar being fourth on this list now. So that's that age-old thing of, there's a lot of players and some people will play it for the fact that you can make cool armies and pretty armies. But there are builds in there that are really, really strong and that allow this army to go 5-0 on multiple occasions.
Yeah. Flattening the curve out, effectively. Jack Baker not happy about us cussing out Stormcast Eternals. It says it's racist. I think that Stormcast Eternals are actually made up of every race. They're the most globalist army that you can find. I don't think that's a word you meant to use. I'm not sure, but I'm going to just move on. So Angie in the chat says, "Good job. I collect both Beasts of Chaos and Stormcast Eternals." Shit.
Wow.
I tell you what, that start collecting Sylvaneth box could be fun for you. Build yourself 4 Tree Lords and have a great time. Yeah.
Are we a different show at this point? Is that what's going on here?
Yeah. At least the
They're
Stormcast
great.
Eternals, Games Workshop love them. So sooner or later they'll get a Space Marine treatment. They will. They will get fucking hyperpower. Listen, buy low. It's simple stocks, right? You buy low. Go on eBay right now. Everyone's looking. If you've got loads of free time because you're furloughed, or just because you have, or whatever, you want a new project. Buy low. Go on eBay. Start buying them Stormcast up. Use these stats. Just message your mate and go like, "Hey mate, have you seen the Stormcast Eternals only got a 40% win rate? Probably really shit. Do you want to sell them me?
Yes.
Like not as much money, whatever. I mean, dicky thing to do to your friend, but still. And then just be like, and I'll be like, yeah, I guess I'll flog them, like half price or whatever. And you buy them off, and then Games Workshop come with the fucking big dick upgrades. Yeah. You are gonna be smashing it, right?
Yeah, I mean, look at all those people. People who did that with Slaves to Darkness would be laughing right now, right?
I don't
Buying all those Marauders when they were 12% win percentage.
Yeah, just scraping Chaos Knights off car boot sales, like off the shelves at car boot sales.
Yeah, bye, bye, bye. It's like, what's going on? Never mind.
Yeah, also you could do the Mortal Realm magazine. Yeah, thanks, Owen. Get
There you
involved in
go.
that. You just get random free shit for that, don't you? Which is fun. Okay, so uh, let's look at this table, like you've said. Then, so you like this table because going. It seems like sometimes we could only do this one table, but sometimes it's nice to break them out. Why is it that this table tells you the most? It's because it's a culmination of all the info, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You've got everything here, and the way it's sorted by win, how many times they actually, what their performance was per wins rather than an overall win percentage. So as I said, it highlights things like if you look at match win percentage and you go, oh, well, Cities of Sigma are totally in the middle, 50% match win percentage. It doesn't tell the full story. So this table tells a little bit more of the story because as I pointed out, Cities of Sigma, you're up there with five plus wins over the events, which puts them right up to fourth place rather than halfway down the table,
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
yeah, it does. So, like, one of the things that's interesting here, and it's been brought up in the chat by Desert Sketch, is let's not look top or bottom. Let's look mid-table. Maggotkin and Nurgle
Yeah.
and Iron Jaws, right? So, Iron
Hmm.
Jaws obviously would be the Iron Jaws allegiance that you find inside the Uruk Warclans book, right? Um,
Yes.
now, they. The Iron Jaws have got a much a more popular as an army, but they've got a lower win rate than the Maggotkin and Nurgle, and then they've only gone and got one first place or one 5+ wins, and then they've got no. Let me just double check. They've got no podiums. Not no first place podiums. Sorry, for Iron Jaws. However, Maggotkin and Nurgle did get a first and second place, and they've got a slightly
Hmm.
better win percentage. So even though we hear about the Uruk War clans a lot, and we see them as being really good, Maggotkin and Nurgle are actually doing better. Whereas if we jump up several places and we go to Big War, which is another allegiance inside the book, same models, you'll see them on the tabletop. Big War have got a 56% win rate, so it's like 10% better. They've got two first places, two second places, and two third places. So they're just doing better, and they have the same popularity as the Iron Jaws element of the army. So Iron Jaws or Big War, but just proving in here that Big War just does way better than the Iron Jaws allegiance, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's I mean, Iron Jaws has got the tricksy build of the Iron Sons. I think Iron Jaws are a more finesse army. I think they could have a better win percentage, but Big War's just you do a couple of things and you hit on two pluses and you wound on two plus. So I think it's just um, similar rules, but a slightly again talking about floor and ceiling, has a high ceiling but a much higher floor as well. Whereas I think Iron Jaws, as shown here, its floor is a little lower, which means more dependent on player skill rather than power of the army.
Agreed. Agreed. So lots to take away from that. Obviously, Disciples Inch up there at the top. Bone Reapers, Fire Slayers, Cities of Sigmar, Idoneth Deepkin, and Henat Sadesh. I've got to say, the Elven armies. Looking forward to the Lumineth Realm Lords or the P Lords or whatever they might be called. The both of the Elven armies, if you will, Deepkin and Daughters of Cain, with much older books. They're some of the oldest books now that exist in the game, and they're still performing really, really well. Deepkin up there with a 51% win rate. They've got two first place podiums. Daughters of Cain up there, two first place podiums as well with a 58% win rate. So I think Games Workshop have had this thing where they traditionally always make elves good because they're seen as elite. So I think that bodes really well for the Lumineth book, in my opinion. If anyone's interested in picking up the Lumineth book, now obviously that's just pure happenstance, like information, but both those armies doing worse than when they first came out, and when they first came out, they were ripping it up. So for me, that's something that stands out there if you're looking at those stats because
Hmm.
they just Games Workshop just can't. They either do a Bone Reapers thing, So with their elite infantry or their elite armies like Bone Reapers and Stormcast, they just make a couple of things really good, and they're like, we're not sure what to do now. And then stuff like Khorne, when they've got a variety of models and they've got all sorts of stuff, they're like, oh no, like we'll give them a bunch of everything, but not really anything at all. So I think the Elven stuff is going to be really strong, in my opinion. But that's just a guess, so it doesn't really mean much. What do you think?
Yeah, yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, they should be, if they follow the old high elf route, they should be somewhat of a combined army, right? Whereas I think they might not play that on the tabletop, obviously, but I think when you look at Deepkin and Daughters, they're not so much combined. They kind of Deepkin are obviously just they should just be called Idenef Eels at this point, as far as if you want to do well with them. Daughters of Cain obviously revolve around those mass blocks of Witch Elves and Sisters of Slaughter, so they're not really so much a combined army per se. Whereas Illuminef, at least from the previews, it's like you know, you got your spearmen, you got your cavalry, you got your archers. I mean, yeah. The big test is going to be because obviously people are just going to take the best unit. So if those guys with the silly hats and hammers are, let's say, Fire Slayer level, we might just see armies of 90 hammer guys.
I honestly really hope people take the hammer and hat guys, because all I'm gonna do is fucking cry laugh at facing these people. Yeah, they'll be like, "There's my army." I'll be like, "I know it's a fantasy game, mate, but you're taking the piss now at this stage. Yeah, that's ridiculous. Look left. Oh, can't.
I can't. I've got horns on my horns. It's so fun. It always reminds me of a shout out to a comedy podcast called Legends of the Peyton Man. They did a bit on basically if GW released they called it the Ass Clown Army, and all it was like a bunch of models of clowns showing their ass to the opponent, like the worst models, worst army you can think of, but they had the best rules. So people, the comedy bit was people trying to justify why they were using those Ass Clown models. No, I really like the fluff, honestly. But they're ass clowns. Yeah, they're really cool fluff, right? Sure.
So,
Anyway.
so I think one of the things that is a good takeaway from the stats, as always, is if you listen to just to mirror what Colonel Cabbage is saying in the chat, but also when we talked to Trog yesterday, one of the great things about Age of Sigmar, I think, with the exception of some of the really damaging elements at the top end, is that you can take most armies and have a great time. The game is super fun, like it's really interactive, and lots of those armies, even if you are planning on running Beast of Chaos, as I am planning on running Beast of Chaos, I think you can do a bunch of fun and interesting stuff, and you shouldn't let the fact. I think those victories are more worthwhile. I wouldn't let the army carry you. I'd carry the army if I were you. Give yourself that challenge. That's what Trog did yesterday, right? That's what those KO guys. The KO book came out. Everyone was like, "Oh, KO shit." Those KO guys are like, "Fuck you, buddies. I'm gonna smash this up," right? Like, which is great. The Trogs of the world, the people that want to play Skaven, still, and are like, I'm gonna run. I'm gonna run Hell Pit Abominations and Doom Wheels, and the people who love their ghosts, they'll go like, "I'm gonna play Nighthorn. I'm gonna play Legion of Grief." I think that's an important thing to take away. The stats are just meant to give you the factual representation of what it's like in the tournament scene. It doesn't mean that you can't change those stats, because each one of those people in there, a good example would be the Deepkin stat there. Those two first place podiums, the same one person. So
Yeah.
he has personally raised that faction all on his own in an event and taking it up. And you could be the person who does that for Nighthorn or KO or Gitz or Seraphon in the future. I mean, the Seraphon guys don't need any help, but
No, they're not going to need any. They're not going to need much. Yeah, I think if had the Seraphon book been out and we're doing this show and Seraphon had, let's say, 3 or 4 weeks, I'd probably say they're going to be in at least the top 5 or 6 there based on first places and things, right?
Exactly.
But I think they'd have picked up at least 2 or 3 first places by now.
Yeah, so I don't think.
In my opinion.
Agreed. Yeah, I absolutely agree. I don't think anyone's going to be particularly surprised by the stats that we've talked about today. The meta percentages
No.
are always interesting, but tying it up in a knot is really good for being LLV, because what it allows us to do going into next week, obviously, not next week, going into next season, is we can kind of analyze, because now we've got the end of last season stats, we've got the end of this season stats, and then we can, when the season starts again, whenever that may be, as events start to slowly filter in from the different places around the world, we'll be able to look at these and compare them as well, which is nice. It gives us a good narrative for what's happened with the armies over time, right?
Yeah, yeah. And we've never had a situation where we actually get put on hiatus like this. So, as we mentioned at the beginning of the show, we're going to start unpacking some of this data, which, usually it's okay, wrapped one season and here's a new season, and you kind of forget about the last one. But we can actually go into like some of the players that have done well, some of the lists that have done well, and hopefully like lay a really good groundwork for when Age of Sigmar comes back and we all get to start playing again at events. Like where you kind of want to be, because people aren't. I guess people might have new armies from isolation and things, but
Yes. There's
it'll
going to be
still give
literally everyone's going to have a million different armies to
a
play as.
different armies, yeah. But it'll give you a good, solid idea of kind of, especially like how armies have performed in the past. Hopefully, help you make some decisions as far as choices in army build, and even if you're practicing at home, maybe start practicing against. I mean, these things have been around forever, right? The IDNF Deep Keneals, they're not going away, and I still see people on stream or watching games where they still don't defend against it. So it's a good time to kind of look at this. Say, yeah, Deepkin is still around. I'm going to maybe start practicing my screens a little more, or whatever it is you do in the downtime. But yeah, it gives us some time to unpack all this. So, and as you said, it's not about the stats are more just a basis on which to it informs people's um, just to give information to people, right? Either new people getting into the game or people wanting to know what they should be looking for going into an event, right?
Yeah, absolutely, and that's why. Aaron Wilson agrees. Even the hardest lists normally have a sort of silver bullet. Jack Baker, my cities of Sigmar will be ready by the end of isolation. Great, looking forward to
Nice.
those. Which is why Hobby Hobo. It's why I prefer AOS to 40k. The pure variety is what makes tournaments interesting. I think that's good as well, and we've shown that in the meta percentage that it's
Yeah,
starting
yeah,
to they're spreading out. And then Aaron
yeah,
Wilson AOS, I played 7 games this week on Tabletop Simulator. It's been great. I just can't deal with that, so I'm painting up armies to get out, which I think is good.
yeah,
And I'm into that as well. Well,
yeah.
uh,
We're flattening the curve. I think Age of Sigmar right now, as it stands, you take Zinch out maybe, and I think that we're in a good spot. So you got to give kudos to the. I, I I've got a bad reputation for ragging on playtesters and game designers, but it's not through it's not from a bad place. I just think everyone has that opportunity to try and be better, and I think the game has got better. As you can see by these numbers, we've got more of the. I think Vince Venturella calls it the fat middle. You've got a lot more armies in that 40 to 50% ratio range when you look at this now. So that's good news. That means player skill becomes more relevant. The more you narrow, the more you flatten the curve using the the popular vernacular right now. But the more you flatten that curve, the more that the army win percentages become closer. Then things like player skill and tactical decisions on the tabletop actually take more prevalence over just power of faction, which is where we all want to be, right?
Agreed. I think there are some notable exceptions though. As much as you're trying to say some nice things, which is great. Some of the shit is absolutely fucking dumb.
Some
And
of the shit is dumb.
it
Yeah,
is dumb. No one wants to play against that Fire Slayer block. It sucks dick, and no one wants to just turn up, see the chain host in front of them, and be like, "Cool, I'll just pack my toys away." So
yeah.
and some
And
armies,
I did discount the change. I discounted the change
yeah, yeah,
host, but yeah,
yeah, right. But that doesn't mean that you can't find some great things to do with your armies, which is fun, and see some fun lists. And I really like this as a benchmark for us jumping off. And I'm very much looking forward to looking at who's done well with these factions over the past year. Who are the wizards at the top with some of these factions? That's going to be really fun, which is a show we're going to do in the future. You up for that? That's going to be rad.
Yeah. Who managed to go undefeated or 5+ wins at events will be one of the things we'll be looking at, and giving those people their props, because it's as you said, each one of these numbers is an actual real life boy or girl out there, right?
Yeah, it's a human being trying real hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So thanks everyone for joining us live. Super sorry about the internet. It's a joke, and obviously I apologise. But thank you for joining us live. So we should. I just want to say a big thank you. And LLV, thank you for joining us live as well.
Yeah, thank you. It's early days still. It's still just went 6 a.m. So it's it's good. Good way to start the morning, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, hopefully.
Stats for breakfast.
Yeah, stats for breakfast, numbers for lunch. But yeah, it's been really fun, and you can join me tomorrow for my solo Sunday. I'm just going to be hanging out with you guys tomorrow. We're just doing some Warhammer and chatting away, which I'm very much looking forward to be honest. And hopefully we'll have the new internet, which will be great. But if you have joined us live and you've got something final you want to say now, please let me know. LLV, you got any final thoughts for today?
No, just everybody stay safe, stay hydrated, obviously. Crazy world, but yeah, keep doing your Warhammers. And yeah, if there's any questions in chat, I can't see chat right now, so if you want to shout them out, I'll try and answer them.
Okay, well, we'll see if there's any stats come up while I find someone to raid. I just want to say a huge thank you to everyone on the Small Game of Patreon who supports the show. You guys are obviously phenom. Thanks for just being yourselves and just kicking ass all over the place, which is what you do. Because you guys are just the cutest. In a minute, we're gonna go raid someone, which is our thing where we go find someone who has got like one viewer, and then we go raid him, and then they normally like giggle like children, and it's the cutest thing in the world.
Oh, that's great. I love a good raid. It's like being a Viking or something, right?
Yeah, but it's just also super sweet, right? Like everyone just loves
Yeah.
it. I'm really looking forward to see who the top players are in some of those factions. I'm not gonna lie, really looking forward to it. Is it over? Fuck you, buddy. It is. Fuck you, buddy.
Fuck you, buddy.
If the internet works properly tomorrow and I can organise a guest, I'll stay online for a big punch tomorrow, which will be fun. Fuck the UCP. BX into each other. Can't wait to get some games with you all. Yes, and also Mike Disney's alleged he is. Okay, there's no questions. Everyone just says fuck you, buddy. So see you later, podcast guys. Yeah, you guys go have a great time. But people live, let's go find someone to raid. Don't forget when we jump in, let's go say cute things to them because they normally get so excited. It's the cutest thing in the world. There's someone called Alex Attempts Tabletop. He's kind of cute. He's got 2 viewers. Let's go do that. He's English and traditional art. Let's go do this guy. This will be cute. So yeah, when we jump in, just go say some nice things to the guy, and then you guys have been great. Thanks for joining us live. See you tomorrow, midday, every day. Day 30 tomorrow.
Wow, milestone.
I don't know if it's day 30. It might be. Okay. So say nice things to the guy. Say nice things to the guy when we jump in. It'll be fun. Let's go.
No fuck you, buddies.
No, FUBs are fine. They're cute.
FUBs, okay.
I think we did it.
We're good.
Hold on. I always like